I guess the thing is what we're saying is being a photographer, obviously you're in the forefront, especially when you're a wedding photographer, which is where my professional background comes from. You're very much in the forefront. You're in front of people. You're talking to people. You're you're there. So how did I go about being able to do that? It was hard. Let's not joke around. It was hard. There was many times getting out that front door was very difficult, very exhausting. Um, there could be morning panic attacks. Sort of hiding in the shower to try and, because that's my safe spot. I go and sit in a nice hot shower and just let it all kind of. Initially I was trying to fight it. That doesn't work, by the way. Letting it, well, use a pun, wash over me. But I found once I had a camera in my hand, I had something to focus on. So once I
Mm.
had the camera in my hand, it was sort of like a different persona. So I wasn't being Melissa, I was being Mel, the photographer. I had a job to do. People were
Ah,
relying on me
how
to
fascinating.
to do something. Um, so yeah, once I had it in the hand, it was sort of like had little blinkers go on, like racehorses. And I sort of stepped into those shoes, and that's where my thought process was. So it was like, right, setting up the bride's dress, it was making sure everyone was looking right, it was making sure I had pictures of the bridal party, separate photos all together, fun photos, candid photos, everything that goes into a wedding day. So it was really sort of, I suppose, having that second persona, which the camera then gave me. It gave me, I was the photographer. I could
Wow.
step out of the shoes and
Actually, it's so interesting because I never thought of it that way. That, that actually gave you a role to play. That camera
yeah,
gave you a role to play, and that protected you because now you're a different person and not you, as in you, like you said, Melissa. Never even use your name, Melissa. That sounds weird, even
I know
coming
it
out.
sounds weird to me too.
So today we're talking about anxiety and panic attacks. Um, and thank you for being here today. I know that you recently had a bad session, and despite that, you're still willing to talk about it. So shall we just take it a step back and let's talk about how it first happened? How do you even know you had, a panic attack?
um, well, panic attack, it's pretty um pretty easy to know you're having one to an extent. I mean, a friend once asked me, well, everyone has anxiety. What's the difference between, what you have? And everyone gets really anxious and a bit of a panic about what they're doing. Well, what's the difference? It's like, well, everyone does. Everyone has anxiety and goes into a panic if they've got to get up and talk at work. They're going for a job interview. It's sort of that natural anxiety. The difference that I've learnt over the time is that when it gets to that point and the panic attacks, it starts really ruling what you do and what you can do. So the panic attacks, it starts with that anxious feeling. You've got you feel quite sick or butterflies in your stomach. I can feel like I'm going to throw up. Um, and sometimes that does happen. It's really short of breath. It's wanting to crawl up inside, like just hide and crawl inside myself. Um, get out of whatever situation that I'm in. So I've left parties and just walked because I've had to leave. I basically bowed my head. I couldn't even say I needed to go. I just had to get out. Um, Trying also not to look like a crazy person running out of out of a party or a venue.
Yeah.
Thankfully, never in my professional life. It's only been in personal. Once again, that different persona. Um, just really wanting to hide, not being able to breathe. That real hyperventilation.
Does it come with any triggers? Like something happened, that's why you get that, or it just happens? You don't even know when it's
Um,
going to happen.
Sometimes it can creep up on me. It used to. Through working with various people, I've learnt techniques, and through I suppose my own reading and research, I've learnt techniques, or have noticed each time I sort of have a panic attack, I kind of learn something new about it,
Hmm.
um, as to what could trigger it or how to manage it. Um, So sometimes it can be overwhelm. I have a habit of, I feel really good, so I take a lot on. Um,
Mm.
and then it can just be something small that's just like, whoa, I can't. My head feels like it's basically, white noise, in old school TVs, you used to get that shh. My head goes like that, but then it's also racing. So it can be overwhelm. It can be, well, previously it's been in situations. It can be, I overthink everything. So it's, say I'm going to birthday party. It's like, well, what if I'm too dressy? But what if I'm not dressy enough, depending where it's at? What if nobody talks to me? But what if somebody wants to talk to me? What if they ask me a question and I answer it really silly, or I don't answer it properly, or I talk too much, I talk not enough? Yeah, I just question everything, which then obviously um,
Wow.
builds onto that anxiety, which then causes me to go into that real state of panic.
So you'll be thinking about all these things, you'll be thinking about it leading up to the event. And then while you are at the event, so you make yourself go anyway because you're committed to it. So when you're there, these thoughts are still continual in your mind.
Terrified that somebody's going to look at me, somebody's going to talk to me. And then if somebody does, that's just basically undoes. I'll try and,
Oh
as much
no.
as I can, try and not look completely crazy. I hate using the word, but um, try and answer something, and that, kind of feed the conversation away from myself, or excuse myself, and I need to go to the bathroom, and I can be out of there.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I left one and I had to be picked up by my brother-in-law came and got me, because I left and I was walking and they're going, stay still. I go, I can't, I have to walk, I have to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so I said, this is where I'm going. And he came and he pulled up on the side of the road and picked me up. And then my mum and my sister basically peeled me out of his car, because I just, I couldn't look at anything, which is really hard when you're getting out of a really tall four-wheel drive. It's a little bit dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah. But when do you remember when it first happened?
When it first happened, I can't really pinpoint. I try to do that a bit, to try and really work out where it was. I think it's something that I had a lot longer,
Mm.
than I realized. I was always quite an angry person, and I think that was my way of controlling everything. So if somebody would ask me something very simple, I could fly off the handle. Once again, because it was just something else that I had to do. And it was really, I suppose it kind of, I noticed a real change when I had my son. He's 11 now, so it was quite a bit a while ago. But um, with all of that, and then as he was getting older, and then when he was in preschool, I actually got diagnosed with Bell's palsy, which I thankfully recovered from, quite, over about a week from the robotic voice and that semi kind of paralyzation. And then it took obviously a lot longer to come from that. And that's when the doctor actually found that it was anxiety and panic attacks. And I think it was just my body, just that was it.
Wow.
And that was when he was probably 4,
So that was the
3, 4,
cause of
4
it, you
months.
thought, of that
I think that's where it really
illness.
came through, and was really sort of seen.
Yeah.
Um, Whereas before, well, I figured I was kind of controlling whatever was happening, and I just was stress. Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
put it down to. But in hindsight, I think it was a lot more and a lot earlier. But where, I can't actually
Would
say.
you say, because the purpose of me, running all these interviews and have speakers on is to help people find a solution to things, would you say that your anxiety and panic attacks are worsened by you putting yourself in positions where you actually wanted to say no, but for reasons such as it's the right thing to do, I have to be there mainly because it's the right thing to do, like family,
Um,
events and all that, you make yourself go although you don't want to be there.
I think so, and I think it's the pressures. That whether it was myself putting those pressures on me, or whether it was from others, whether they're meaning to or not, putting pressures. on as well. Pressures like expectations, and that sort of thing as well.
Mm,
Pressures to be a certain way, expectations to do certain things, be a certain way. And then, yeah, sometimes actually, a lot of times I went to things that I didn't want to because was told, well, you have to, which then goes against my thing because I'm not very good at being told what to do. Anyone who knows me will know that.
yeah.
um, so, yeah.
Yeah. So what is so vital in this conversation is this though. So there is two selves. Yeah. Our true self, who we really are deep down inside, and our real self. Real self meaning real time self though. In this real time, who we are in accordance to the people around us, the situation we're in. So when these two are two different entities. In the ideal world, these two entities unite and you become, you are your true self. So that is called congruence. So when congruence occurs, you are very comfortable. You say what you want to say. You are not, you don't worry too much about what people think. That is ideal situation. So a lot of mental illnesses and all that anxiety, panic attacks happen when these two selves are too far apart. Like what Mel said, she doesn't like to be told what to do, but yet there's a responsibility for her when people say you have to be there. So I know this from personal experience that I used to. I don't have panic attacks. I just get drunk and then I turn out.
I used to do that too. It was the only way I could cope.
Correct. It's really bad though, right? It's really bad. I'll really get like so close to the edge and I'll turn out, I'll be like, incoherent because that's the way I could get there because I cannot physically bring myself. So I would you say to the viewers that this is a built up, yeah, as much as you can. If you can, this is how we can learn to protect ourselves is to draw these boundaries. And hopefully the people in your family and friends understand that these boundaries are important for your sanity. Would you say that?
I think that's something that I've really learnt, that you need to put boundaries in place. It's hard to put the boundaries in when you've let things go for a long time. Um,
Exactly.
it's not hard for me to put, well, for myself, once again, having that, as I said before, that Jekyll and Hyde thing, um, but it's more getting those people to respect those boundaries.
Mm,
Um, that has probably been the hardest thing, but I think it's just maintaining um, those boundaries and making sure that you do stick by them. You don't let them impede on that, because you do need them, um, to retain I suppose your sanity. I mean, they're words that I don't like, sort of using, especially when we're talking about these sorts of things. But it's,
yeah.
you know, you
That's a figure of
do,
speech though, but yeah.
yeah, yeah, you do need that, and it's not necessarily to hide or anything like that. Which I've used many different things to do. Um, it's just that thing of, so you feel safe that you can go and do things.
Yeah.
That if you do need to step away, that you can step away.
Yeah, that's right. And we find it especially hard if it's family
Yeah,
because friends are different. Why are they different? Because they're chosen.
yeah,
We choose them and they choose us. But family, you don't have a choice. And if you don't comply, you you're the bad, you're the black sheep, you just why are you so selfish, all that. It's so this is the story of most people's lives. I'm telling you that we have to comply because it's family.
yeah. You're selfish. You're argumentative. You need to comply because we don't want to upset who and who. Not out there to upset people, but I have a voice to be listened to as well.
That's right.
Um,
That's right. So if the basis of all this, right, I've spoken to a few people now about this. The pressure we put on ourselves is one thing. So we take onus for that. We take ownership that we put pressure on ourselves because as human beings, that's what we do. We want the best, part of us to be exposed to the world. However, the other responsibility lies on the people around us. So I don't know, this is just a hard one. This is such a really hard one because asking people to respect boundaries, if you haven't set up the boundaries for a long time, it's a big ask because they're like, you've been like this for so long as I know you, and suddenly you're telling me this doesn't work. So they
Yeah.
have to rewire.
I think the biggest thing is to, I mean, if you're lucky and you've got people that are really supportive, I found the biggest difference to help people try and understand was to find words. I found it really hard to try and put things into words, explain things properly. I mean, that did take time, and I mean, I give friends that are still with me full points for hanging around, because in hindsight, I wasn't a nice person at times, and that was my way of, well, feeling like I was in control of something that I definitely wasn't in
Yeah.
control of.
Yeah.
And I think it's just, if you can sit down and you can put words to things so you can explain them, I think that makes a big difference, because once they can understand, then they can not necessarily help in some ways, but they can support you. So when you are having a tough time, or you feel like you're failing, if you like, that they know how to be there for you. And it's not necessarily messages all the time of yeah, are you okay? How are you feeling? Or phone calls all the time, because that was also something, like, if I heard my phone go off, it just compounded everything.
Mm.
It could just be a funny gift sent to you. It could, nothing to do with asking you how you are necessarily. It's just that
Yeah.
checking in, knowing that there's people there.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got some friends that have got some really quirky senses of humor. So some of the messages and that they'll send when they know I'm not quite right, it makes me chuckle,
Yeah.
which then helps
That's
improve
right.
helps improve that mood too. And it's just knowing that there's people there. They're not trying to crowd you or anything like that. It's just, hey, check this funny meme out, or you've got to, it can be something completely left field. And I
Yeah.
found that helped me, because it stopped me for a moment thinking about what was in my head.
Yeah. I think so. Before we wrap up, I think the important thing that Mel has brought up is this: when people are you know, already in an overwhelmed state of mind, whether they're feeling depressed or they're panicking, or, or just feeling anxious, sometimes having to deal with a concerned friend or concerned party adds on to that overwhelm. All they needed to know is that you're there. If they need you, they can always come to you.
Yeah,
Yep, that's all they need. So if you have a loved one, who is constantly pushing away, it's not because they're pushing away, they are just in overwhelm.
yeah,
Sometimes things need to be dealt with internally. They just need to deal with it themselves first. But all they needed to know is they're not alone.
yeah,
Yeah, because the loneliness will be, and then it will slip into despair. That's when a hardcore depression sets in, because nobody cares.
yeah,
But once they just the constant reminder that you're there, it doesn't have to be, oh, talk to me, call me, pick up the phone. It's not that. It's that, yeah, like what Mel said, just a funny video or anything to say, I'm thinking of you, because they know that you're always there.
yeah.
Any last words before we go?
I think my last words would be, a lot of people, I mean, I don't want to advocate anything. I mean, I'm not one for a fan of medications, mainly because I suck at taking them. I forget. Don't discount them. Sometimes you need them just to help level out, so you can find things to help you. Um, you don't always have to go down that very medical side of things. I found a fabulous mindset coach, and she was amazing. I worked with her for I think it was 12 to 18 months, but just having that shift in, because a lot of mine was overthinking, and that having that shift there helped a lot. I think just finding people to hang with that you can be you around. There's no pressure. They're not going to proceed. So, how are you? Um, I
Mm,
mean, as I said, my friends have got really quirky senses of humor, so they can get that out of me, or they can get that. with some really weird and wonderful conversations or just things. You're going, oh, you're fine. Yeah, let's go and have a cuppa. You know, you want let's have some Tim Tams. You know, like just and taking my thought away from that. You know, talking about really random stuff that isn't something that's going to cause me to be overwhelmed. It's really fluffy. It's ridiculous. I mean, the crap we talk is just insane, but it helps. And it's just, yeah, it's finding a group that you can be you, whether it's good, it's bad.
Yeah, it
And
is. Yeah,
I
picking the
think
people that's to be around you, that who loves you for who you are, is so important.
very much so.
Yeah. So I think that could be the saving grace for all of us. If you were to pick the people who truly loves you, if they don't stay around a friend, although they are a good friend, or they, you know, they seem to be good friends, or you hang around because you've been friends for so long, don't do it. If they're negative, they're not good for you, they cannot be happy for you, something is very, very wrong.
Yeah.
So my advice is get out. Get out and find get out so that you make room for the right person to come in. Doesn't it make sense? Makes sense to me though. Anyway, thanks Mel again for today, and I'll be back next week. Not sure who we're gonna have on yet. I don't know. Haven't planned it. Yes. Okay. So, but we'll be back next week. All right. With that, see ya.
Yeah.